Good afternoon. And it's good to see such a good turnout here. I'm really appreciative to the opportunity to participate here with some of the operators that are really driving this forward. I mean, the MEF is about automation and interoperability between carriers and making automation exist at scale. And we have people that are really wrestling with what this means, what we're doing well, and how we can do it even better. I was looking at some numbers that we published about a year and a half ago that says there's about $100 billion of incremental revenue in the types of services we're talking about. There are some very exciting services that people talk, and yet if we look at where the money is being spent, it's on last mile broadband interconnect, it's about secure services and SASE-enabled services that look like things that the MEF has been working on. So there's a lot to drive this forward. I'd like to start this off with a question, and maybe Bertrand, you'd like to start answering it, but I'd like to invite all the panel members to contribute to each about what will it take for us to get from making APIs work to making them work cost effectively, at scale, adding partners quickly, making this a really effective, profitable business that you can roll out, in dozens and maybe 100 countries around the world in some cases, which is the unenviable task you have.
Thank you, Grant. What it will take is adoption, obviously, but adopting is the first step. What we want to work on is, once you've adopted the API, how do you keep making it working? We've seen the picture from awesome Pascal this morning, or earlier today, on how many APIs we have. What we've seen, and AT&T is indeed privileged to have onboarded already a large number of providers, people are generally using 5 APIs, but we have 25 or so APIs defined already. When you upgrade from using the set of initial 5 APIs to the next ones, the effort for us to onboard the next APIs is almost as much as the effort to onboard the first few. And we've onboarded 30 providers. We have a few hundred more to go. And if every time we add to it, we have to spend as much effort, it's not going to be scalable. So what it takes is figuring out how do we adopt this and how do we build an environment that makes it scalable. And we've been working with MEF to define the notion of Springboard, which we'll talk more about now, on how do we help providers to adopt, initiate the journey, but then how do we build into the environment something that helps us keeping that environment sustainable and ease the enhancements, ease the adoption of more APIs, so that we make it a thriving environment that is sustainable for us.
Do either of you want to comment on that, or?
Yes, of course. We spent some time together with the other discussing this topic, because yes, we are speaking about testing. And for us, it is a question of developing, so not only testing, but developing. Because, for example, so I'm from Sparkle. I'm the Chief Information Officer in Sparkle. And by the end of the year, we are going to integrate via Sonata API for partners. And AT&T is one of them. And definitely, we are going to have interaction with these partners in order to define attributes and to understand which release of Sonata API we are going to implement. And we are going to negotiate something. So it is not just a question of testing, it is a question to establish the way of using the Sonata API. So definitely it is important, the point, and I understand that AT&T is at a certain stage of adoption and of interaction with other partners, but speaking about Sparkle, it is always more important to go through the standardization. It is because for us it is more important to facilitate the development than and then the testing, yes, of course, but to go through the standardization in order to be, as we saw this afternoon, it was not this morning with Pascal.
We need
to have APIs ready to be used. So this is the main.
Yeah, just to add a few things. I think first of all, we've done a great job at MEF to align these APIs and processes actually. And the key thing is, I think when we work with a provider and they're saying, okay, we have to implement these APIs, they often think about how they've done APIs in the past. So how do I build out my proprietary APIs? Okay, I just do it with in-house development. I use they build some tests and they test it and then they open it up to their partners. Well, we're talking about something very different here at MEF, where actually we're trying to make wireline compatibility between your business processes and your partner's business processes. And this actually requires different kind of tools and capabilities to actually enable you to do that. And we already started the journey about 3 years ago in MEF and the CBC to develop testing tools that would allow you to test against the standard, test against your partner-specific configurations. And used effectively, those tools can really reduce the time that you would spend. But it's the appreciation of those tools that sometimes is missing, that you have providers who do not appreciate that it's about interoperability and getting that wireline compatibility, that kind of dial-up networking that we always talked about many years ago. Can we do more? For sure, I think, but we've taken big steps to actually improve this situation, but we need to go further, and there are probably many things we can do there.
Can I add? So definitely, I agree with Michael. And so I think that there are many local service providers that have some, because when we speak about APIs, we are speaking about a capability that I expose to the partners. But I need to have these capabilities developed in my own environment. So the first step, and sometimes we have this kind of problem in our partners. The first step is to have a BSS, a digitalization of the BSS. So you need to have this kind of capability developed in your environment, and then you can expose. Then when you expose, you can use the standard to expose the APIs. So this is another important step we should try to do in MEF also. Try to standardize. Let me say the catalog. We have some stream in MEF. So the catalog for certain kind of products, not for the old products, but for the products that we want to sell and buy in the MEF environment, we should agree which are the, let me say, we should agree the catalog, we should agree which is the main attributes we need to sell and buy, and then we need to use it in the internal IT environment and between the partners.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you made. I've always advocated that what you want to start with is APIs that you're using internally, and then you abstract and expose them to others. But both you and Michael have touched on where you can go if you're not careful, right? Which is the old joke about the nice thing about standards being that there are so many to choose from, right? Which kind of leads to a problem. Can you talk? One thing we haven't really done is talked about the investments that the MEF and some of the members in the MEF have made in standard testing environments and standard testing tools. To what degree the three of you find those to be beneficial, how you think they should be used, and maybe are there, I don't want to call them limitations, are there even more enhancements that can be made to solve problems that you're encountering now?
MEF has defined two mainstream activities. One is the OIT platform, which allows us to do operability, interoperability testing. And the other one is the certification process, which is on the brinks of being finished, hopefully. Those two things are like a driving instructor learning you to drive and a driving inspector blessing that you know how to drive so that you can be on the road, right? What we're talking about here is operating the road system as well. Once we have people that are on there that know how to drive and how they operate, and how they drive jointly so that we have minimum accidents as possible. The source of accidents is when you have too much diversity. That's true. And many of us are talking about, are our product specifications too rich? Do we have too many options to choose from? Can we simplify that? It's certainly something we need to investigate. It will certainly simplify the onboarding, it will simplify the testing and so on, but that's a little bit beyond the point. The richness of our APIs and options we have is what is potentially making it a very rich environment to buy and sell from each other. And we're here to try to at least trade among each other. The purpose of what we're trying to do with the testing and certification is, like the driving instructions and driving testing, figure out how do we build a set of driving rules and how do we police it so that it works effectively. Regardless of whether we're running with trucks, cars, bicycles, or whatever, that's the richness of the vehicles we have. We all like to have Ferraris, we just can't afford it.
I don't know, Michael. Michael is, Amartus is the Deus Ex Machina of all. Oh, 5 minutes, okay. So just, okay. So I really, it is really this investment of MEF, ET and other kind of tools in order to test ourselves versus the standard are really, really important, because we strongly believe that we need to develop the standard in our own environment. So this is the line that we use and we want to continue. So these are really important. The question was what's next? So we should try, I think that now we are at the good point, we should try to converge with the releases, because we have different releases, because it is a question of maturity of the standard. The reason why many providers doesn't change the release, Sparkle is one of them. So we are changing now, but we adopted the same release for 3 years. It's because we don't want to spend money developing each month or each 2 months. We would like to have a release in a 3-year period industrial plan, and we want to develop this release. So I think we are at a good point now of maturity in MEF to have not many releases, not a proliferation of releases.
I think a couple of additional improvements that can be made is to, it's clear that if people implement from scratch the standards, that they've got a challenge. It's a big challenge, because you have to go and read the hundreds of pages of specifications. Your interpretation is invariably going to differ from the interpretation of others. So I think whatever you do, whether you use a test, you test against a solution that is compliant. If you're doing a seller, you test against a buying solution, or vice versa. But I also encourage people to look at what the solution vendors have, because they've already built a stack that actually is ready and proven and in production. And that, combined with the testing service, will shorten those cycles. I think the additional thing we can do is, as you mentioned, look a little bit, closer at the earlier stage. So one of the things you need to agree is product definition for the commercial APIs, for the business APIs. This can go back and forward based on our experience. What is the product? And we're not talking about hundreds of attributes. We're talking about 5, 6, 7 attributes to be specified for the product, but it can still cause a lot of confusion. Other things are things like, can I do asynchronous or synchronous responses for this particular API? Some of these things are easy decisions, but oftentimes when people are coming at it for the first time, we spend a lot of time actually educating them first on LSO, APIs, consulting around that, and then getting to the point, you know. So I think that some of that can be avoided. You can adopt, you know, existing solutions that are there in the market that can give you a better time to market or reduce the amount of effort that you need to do, you know. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to thank the panel members, and I want to say something to anyone in the audience who's really interested in this. In the last couple of weeks, I came into this sort of as the newbie with some people that had been really wrestling with the nitty-gritty of this, obviously, for the past year. And I'm sure all of these panelists would, you know, really enjoy having a discussion with anyone who wants to see them. There is a lot of experience to be learned, and as I said at the very beginning, a huge amount to be gained as an industry. So thank you to everyone. I can tell from your passion you would love to talk to people about it. So I hope it was okay to put you on the spot.
No problem. Thank you, Grant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.